My son's voice hit hard, loud enough for every person inside the house to hear. You don't belong here. You're not our family anymore. Get out before you ruin Christmas. His wife stood behind him, one hand resting on his shoulder, her fingers tapped twice, amused, pushing him forward like he needed encouragement. Her smile widened when our eyes met, a thin curve that carried more contempt than words ever could. I didn't answer. I didn't ask why. I reached for the blueprint box near the side table, lifted it under my arm, and picked up the envelope with my name on it. Jason watched every movement, chest rising fast, waiting for a reaction he would never get. Clarissa brushed imaginary dust off his sleeve, pleased with the scene. Guests shifted in the dining room doorway, pretending not to stare while the Christmas lights flickered behind them. I looked at Jason once more. Then I'll take what's mine. I stepped past him, walked to my car, and drove into the snow without a single glance back. Their voices faded behind me as the house disappeared. Snow hit the windshield in steady lines as I drove, and two memories surfaced with sharp clarity. The first was Jason at 8 years old. Before we continue, please subscribe to the Granny's Voice channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are watching from now. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's shout out goes to Tuesday Jones from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you for being part of this great family. Now let me tell you what happened that day. He stood outside his school holding one of my blueprints like a shield against the other kids teasing him. My mom designs houses, he announced, voice trembling but proud. She makes buildings strong. When I walked him to the car, he hugged the paper to his chest. Can I keep this one, Mom? It shows how things fit together. I smiled and tucked it into his backpack. It's yours. The memory shifted violently to 10 years later. Jason stood in our kitchen, but he wasn't alone. Clarissa was there the first time I met her. She wore a coat that cost more than my car and looked at my walls with polite disgust. Jason says you worked on local projects, she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. Small ones. Jason straightened his posture, stepping away from me and closer to her. Mom did what she could, he said quickly. But we're aiming higher now, right, Clarissa? Clarissa placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of ownership, not affection. We'll upgrade everything, Jason. Starting with your mindset. That was the moment I lost him. Not last night, but 10 years ago in that kitchen when he decided that strong wasn't enough anymore. He wanted expensive. Christmas night. The doorway. Jason blocking the entrance with that same posture he practiced at Warren's table. Clarissa behind him with her small, satisfied smile. His voice cutting through the cold air. You're not our family anymore. Every shift had been gradual, steady, and visible. And now it stood complete in front of me. Jason looking at me as if I were a stranger, and Clarissa standing behind him, pleased that the transformation was done. I stepped outside at sunrise to toss a bag of trash, and the first thing I saw was the mailbox leaning sideways. The front panel was crushed in one clean hit. The lock hung open, broken clean through. Papers stuck out at uneven angles. I walked closer. Snow around the post was stamped with 2 sets of footprints, one heavy, one lighter. The same pattern from the night. Jason paced the dining room while Clarissa directed him with her eyes. I crouched and pushed the bent door up. Letters spilled out onto the ground. One envelope was ripped straight across the middle. A neighbor's door creaked. Mrs. Whitmore peeked out, then shut it again when she recognized me. No wave, no greeting, just avoidance. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I picked up, breathing, sharp, impatient breathing. Then the line cut. I stood over the broken mailbox. A single card sat wedged against the back panel. Pulled it out. Holiday card. No name, no message. Just a glossy picture of a mansion covered in lights. Nothing that belonged to anyone on this street. I turned it over. Blank. My phone vibrated again. You weren't supposed to show up last night. I stared at the message. No punctuation, no apology, just instruction. A second message appeared. Asterisk Clarissa wants things smooth today. Don't complicate it, asterisk. I walked back toward the house with the card in hand. Snow crunched under my boots, steady, even. Inside, I placed the mail on the counter and set the blank card on top. The image stared back at me like a reminder of exactly what they valued. Now another message came. Don't come until we ask. I didn't reply. I stepped outside again to inspect the tracks. The deeper footprints stopped at the edge of my walkway. The lighter ones circled twice before heading back toward the street. Both sets pointed directly at my porch, not passing by, but coming straight to the mailbox. I traced the line of prints with my eyes. They went to the car marks on the road where a vehicle had parked at an angle, close enough for someone to swing a metal object at the mailbox without walking too far. A black SUV turned the corner slowly. The same type Warren used for business events, but this one was older. Tinted windows, no front plate. It slowed beside my house, paused, then rolled on without making a sound. My phone buzzed again. You should have stayed quiet last night. I didn't answer. I walked back into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. The phone vibrated again before I finished placing the glass down. Asterisk, don't come to the dinner tonight. Clarissa doesn't want trouble. Asterisk, I pressed the screen to turn it off, but another message came through immediately, forcing the phone to light up. Just listen for once. I placed the phone face down. I stepped back outside and knelt near the mailbox again. A small piece of metal lay in the snow, a screw from the hinge. I picked it up and examined the dent. It wasn't random vandalism. It was controlled. One hit, clean and precise, aimed to break, not destroy. A vehicle door slammed from down the block. I looked up. A young man jogged toward a pickup, clearly unrelated. He waved, then drove off. No one else was outside. The blank card still sat in my hand. I examined the mansion image again. Large pillars, stone walls, polished windows. A life built on show, not substance. A life Clarissa wanted Jason wrapped in. I rechecked the street, empty, quiet. I re-entered the house and placed the card next to the fractured envelopes. The edges lined up perfectly when I tapped them once against the counter. Then my phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time I answered without hesitation. Breathing again, a long exhale. Then a low voice rushed and hushed as if someone didn't want to be heard in the room they stood in. Just stay away tonight. Not a threat, an order. I pressed the speaker close enough to catch any background noise. I heard a distant clink. Glass hitting stone countertop. A muffled female voice. Clarissa's tone. Tight, controlling. I didn't give the caller time to hang up. You broke my mailbox. Silence. Not denial, not correction, just a silent pause. Then the call ended. I set the phone down without emotion and walked to the door. Mrs. Whitmore's curtains shifted again. She watched the mailbox, not me. She mouthed something small. Maybe they did that. But she closed the curtain fully before I could respond. I took one more look at the footprints. The spacing between each step matched Jason's stride when he was stressed. The smaller prints matched Clarissa's sharper, deliberate walking pattern. This wasn't random. This wasn't kids. This was preparation. They wanted me walking into their dinner unsettled, nervous, off balance, easy to push around, easy to humiliate again. I turned the card over in my hand, blank, silent, empty. I placed it into the mailbox, letting it rest against the bent metal inside. Then I pulled the mailbox door shut as far as the dent allowed. It hung crooked, but it closed. My phone lit up with one more message. Be smart and stay out of the way. I locked the door behind me, gripping the phone only long enough to press it off completely. Their warning was delivered. Now it was my turn. The phone rang at noon. Jason's name appeared. I answered on the third ring. Mom, let's fix this. He opened, voice tight. Come tomorrow, 10 a.m. We'll talk. Tomorrow? Yes. Yeah, Clarissa thinks it's better. Clean conversation. No issues. I looked at the crooked mailbox through the window. My mailbox didn't look clean this morning. Fabric rustled. He adjusted something nervously. That wasn't us. 2 sets of footprints say otherwise. He inhaled sharply. Mom, stop turning everything into an investigation. Just come tomorrow. Then speak clearly today, I replied. You're old enough to do that without coaching. Behind him, Clarissa's voice cut through. Stop explaining. She'll come. Ethan scrambled to cover it. I'm handling it. Just 10 a.m. Hung up. The phone rang again instantly. Don't hang up, he rushed. I didn't mean to sound annoyed. Clarissa's voice snapped in the background. Short sentences, Jason. Don't ramble. He lowered his tone. Just show up tomorrow. A beep followed. Clarissa had ended the call from her end. A text appeared seconds later. Asterisk, she's stressed. Make this easy. Asterisk, I didn't answer. Another text came. Please come tomorrow. I stepped outside. Snow covered the footprints partially, but the pattern remained. Direct to my porch. Direct back to the street. No wandering. No mistake. A white sedan slowed near my driveway. Clarissa lowered the passenger window, sunglasses covering her eyes. Jason wants peace, she stated flatly. What kind of peace breaks mailboxes? Asked. Her lips twitched. You live in an old neighborhood. Things break. Your heel prints matched perfectly. Her fingers froze mid-tap on the steering wheel. Just 1 second. Then she nodded once like she accepted the observation. We're asking for cooperation, she continued. Tomorrow is important. For who? For Jason, she didn't blink. He needs to look composed. Is that why he blocked me at the door? That was a misunderstanding, she answered sharply. You didn't follow his lead. I leaned slightly closer. You trained him well. Her jaw tightened. Be on time tomorrow. She rolled the window up and drove off. A minute passed. The phone rang again. Jason answered. Don't be angry at her, he rushed. She's handling a lot. What exactly is she handling? Asked. Everything. Guests, seating Warren's expectations. She's under pressure. So, you're calling me to fix her stress? He stumbled over breath. I'm calling because I want this family to look normal. Tomorrow just be calm. That depends on your behavior, I replied. A gasp echoed behind him. Clarissa. You don't need to provoke her, she snapped. Tell her to come. That's all. Jason lowered his voice. 10 a.m. Mom, don't make it harder. He hung up before I could respond. A text came from Clarissa's number. Asterisk, arrive on time. Do not bring up last night. Asterisk, another from Jason. Mom, please don't embarrass me tomorrow. I stepped inside and placed the phone on the counter. It buzzed again immediately. Oh, Jason again. I answered slowly. Look. He began trying to control his tone. What happened last night wasn't ideal. You blocked your mother at her own door, I corrected. That's not what I meant to do. But you did it. He didn't respond. Continued. Say what you mean, Jason. Not what Clarissa approves. Behind him, Clarissa hissed. Do not let her twist this. He panicked. Mom, just come tomorrow. Don't turn this into a scene. Why does tomorrow matter so much? Asked. He hesitated. Warren will be there. There it was. What does he need to see from you? Pressed. That everything's fine. And if it isn't, he doesn't need the details, Jason muttered. Just come. Well, leave early. That sounds like an order, I replied. It's not, he argued weakly. Clarissa's voice cracked through again. Tell her the table is already set. Jason rushed. The table's set. We planned everything. Just be civil. I didn't respond. He tried again. Mom, don't embarrass me. You embarrassed yourself last night, I answered plainly. Clarissa made a sound of frustration behind him. Hang up. He obeyed. The phone went still for a moment. Then Warren texted. Asterisk, attend tomorrow. I want clarity. Asterisk. Short, controlled, unlike Jason's frantic messages. Unlike Clarissa's instructions, Warren's involvement changed the air of the situation entirely. I didn't respond. Another message from Clarissa came through. Asterisk, wear something appropriate. We want the pictures to look polished. Asterisk, then a second. Asterisk, don't bring up the mailbox. Not necessary. Asterisk. I walked outside again, stood in front of the dented metal box, and pressed the door gently closed. It hung crooked, but it closed. My phone rang again. Answered. Jason's voice cracked with pressure. If you care about me at all, just come tomorrow and act normal. I act normal, I said steadily. You two create scenes. That's not fair. You hit my mailbox. I didn't. He choked on the denial. Clarissa shouted in the background. Enough. Just tell her to show up and stop begging. He flinched so hard the microphone picked it up. Mom, 10 a.m. He disconnected. I stood by the mailbox. The blank holiday card inside stared back at me. The snow around the post was marked with the same pattern of steps. Jason's uneven pace. Clarissa's controlled spacing. Their footprints told more truth than their calls. Every message, every instruction, every forced tone pointed to the same motive. Tomorrow wasn't reconciliation. It was staging. They wanted a compliant prop. They wanted a silent mother. They wanted a scene they could control. But I wasn't walking into their script. I would walk in with my own. I walked back inside and placed the phone on the counter. It buzzed again, but I ignored it and opened the closet to pull out the blueprint box. The cardboard edges were worn from years of use. I set it on the dining table and lifted the lid. Inside were rolled sheets, clipped notes, and the old lighthouse drawing Tom kept at the very top. I unfolded it. Straight lines, clean angles, clear structure, everything built with purpose. I laid the drawing flat. My phone vibrated with another message. Jason. Mom, please confirm tomorrow. I let the phone rest. I opened the second roll, an unfinished layout Tom and I once worked on together. A grid of measured marks, each one placed with intention. I traced the line once with my finger, not for emotion, but for clarity. Everything in that box had a place, and nothing in Jason's house the night before had any structure at all. A knock sounded at the door. Mrs. Whitmore stood on the porch, pulling her sweater close. I saw the mailbox, she murmured, eyes scanning the dent. 2 people. 2, I confirmed. She tisked under her breath. They looked angry when they left earlier. I didn't open the door. That was smart. She pointed at the blueprint box inside. You working on something? Organizing. She nodded once. Quick and understanding. Be careful tomorrow. I always am. She walked back across the street, glancing twice over her shoulder. I closed the door and locked it. The phone rang again. Jason. Answered. Mom, you're not responding. He rushed. Clarissa's getting anxious. Your mailbox visit made me aware, I answered. He groaned softly. It wasn't like that. You left footprints. Snow distorts footprints. This snow didn't. He paused. Just come tomorrow. Don't make me deal with more stress. I glanced at the blueprint. Stress comes from poor planning. He didn't know how to respond. Just show up. I'll show up when I'm ready. He inhaled sharply. 10 a.m. The line went dead. I returned to the table and unrolled a third sheet. Simple measurements and alignment notes Tom once explained during a late night before Jason was born. Always match what you build to what you want to stand, he had instructed. Everything else collapses. I placed the lighthouse drawing on top of the others. Its clean lines and steady base were a reminder of decisions made with clarity, not noise. I reached for the phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in months. Warren answered within one ring. Diane. His voice was firm, wary. Is something wrong? You asked for clarity tomorrow, I responded. Yes, he exhaled steady and controlled. I need it. You'll get it. What happened last night? Yes. I kept my voice even. Clarissa encouraged my expulsion. He didn't interrupt. His silence wasn't denial. It was evaluation. And Jason, he asked. He followed her direction. Deep breath. I feared that. You should attend tomorrow, I stated plainly. You'll hear the truth. What truth? Yes. You'll hear it tomorrow. He paused long enough to process. Will there be conflict? That depends on Clarissa. Understood. His voice lowered. Thank you for telling me. I'm not telling you. I'm preparing you. Then I'll be ready. We ended the call. I placed the phone beside the blueprint box and lined up the edges of the drawings. There was no need for long analysis, no need for emotion, only alignment, only preparation. My doorbell rang again. This time it wasn't a neighbor. A delivery driver stood by a small package for Ms. Brennan. I took the box, signed the slip and closed the door. The return address belonged to a company Clarissa used for event planning. I opened the package. Inside was a folded card with embossed letters. Asterisk formal attire required. Maintain decorum. Asterisk no signature, no greeting, just instruction. Under the card was a list of seating arrangements. My name was at the far end of the table, isolated from the main group, positioned as if I were an afterthought. I folded the paper cleanly and set it aside. My phone buzzed again. Clarissa. Asterisk confirm attendance. I need final numbers. Asterisk another buzz. Clarissa, don't improvise tomorrow. And another Clarissa, we expect cooperation. The messages stacked one after another, cold and clipped. I typed a single response. I'll handle my part. She replied instantly. Asterisk good. Don't create issues. Asterisk I didn't answer. I returned to the blueprint box, pulled out a binder with old receipts, land documents, and copies of joint projects I'd kept neatly sorted. Each page held proof of choices made over decades. Proof of what built the family Jason now disowned. The pages weren't sentimental. They were factual, precise. I stacked them in order. Another call came through. Warren. Answered. I spoke with Jason, he reported. His tone was defensive. He's under direction, I replied. I gathered that. He paused. It's disappointing. I thought he had more backbone when I allowed him to marry my daughter. He did, I answered. But she trained him differently. He accepted that without argument. Tomorrow will change that. Only if you stand firmly, I reminded him. I will. We ended the call again. Evening set in. Snow quieted. Lights across the street flicked on. I gathered the drawings, notes, documents, and placed them back into the box with intention. Every page was chosen. Every piece had purpose. My phone lit up with one last message from Jason. Mom, don't ruin tomorrow, please, I responded. I don't ruin what I don't control. He didn't reply. I closed the blueprint box gently and slid it onto the counter. Tomorrow they expected a silent mother. They expected compliance. What they would get was structure. Not noise, not emotion, not surrender. Structure. I placed the blueprint box on the table and checked the time. If tomorrow was the stage Clarissa wanted, Warren needed the truth before he walked into it blind. I scrolled to his number and pressed call. He picked up immediately. Diane, you asked for clarity, I began. You'll get it now, not tomorrow. Tell me. Your daughter-in-law planned my expulsion last night, I stated plainly. She directed Jason step by step. Warren didn't react with surprise. How? She stood behind him, tapped his shoulder, fed him every line. Kept my tone even. He performed for her. He exhaled once. And the mailbox this morning. 2 sets of footprints, I answered. Their sizes, their angles, their timing both matched. Warren paused, processing. Clarissa didn't mention this. Clarissa doesn't mention what incriminates her. A chair creaked through the speaker on his end. Why tell me directly? You're the only one in that house who still cares about truth. He didn't argue. I continued. Tomorrow's reconciliation is staged. She wants me seated far from everyone. She sent me a card instructing decorum. A low sound escaped him. Disapproval, controlled. She expects Jason to mirror her decisions, I added. He has been different, Warren acknowledged. Quieter, less himself. He follows instruction, I replied. Not judgment. Warren's voice sharpened. What exactly happens tomorrow? You'll hear the truth, I said, if you're willing to listen. I am, he confirmed quickly. What do you need me to do? Sit. Don't intervene until the moment is clear. And when will it be clear? When she forces it. Pause. She always does. Warren's breath hit the microphone slow and measured. What role do you expect from me? The one you should have played years ago, I answered. The person who sees through performance. He didn't flinch. I can do that. Good, because Clarissa will push the narrative that last night was my mistake. His tone lowered. She already tried. What did she tell you? That you misread the room. That you interrupted discussions important to Jason. Warren paused. She said you raised your voice. I never raised my voice. I know, he replied. Silence stretched for 2 seconds, long enough to confirm his shifting loyalty. I continued. She wants control tomorrow. That's why she contacted you first. Seating, order, timing, everything is designed to corner me. Warren's tone hardened. Cornering you is not happening. That depends on you, I reminded him. I understand. I straightened a stack of documents on the table. Jason will follow her lead. Watch where his eyes go. Watch how his answers shift. I've noticed that, Warren admitted. He looks at her before responding. He's been doing that for years. Warren inhaled slowly. I didn't want to believe it. You don't need belief, I replied. You need accuracy. He accepted that. You'll speak tomorrow. When necessary, I responded. And Jason. He'll try to avoid accountability until Clarissa pushes him. Warren paced across the floor. The echo confirmed it. I can't let Clarissa drive the family into chaos. She already has, I answered plainly. Tomorrow determines if you correct it. He stopped walking. What do you want from me when the moment comes? Stand up, I instructed. Not emotionally, physically. It will silence the room. I can do that. And then support the truth. He didn't hesitate. You have it. A notification beeped on my phone. Text from Clarissa. Confirm attendance immediately. I ignored it. I waited for Warren to settle before continuing. Clarissa thinks she can choreograph tomorrow's outcome. She thinks silence equals weakness. She thinks control equals victory. Warren's voice lowered. She gets that from her mother. I'm not fighting her, I reminded him. I'm revealing her. He stopped pacing again. What will you reveal? The pattern, I answered. The pressure, the instructions, the manipulation, the way she pushed Jason into humiliating his own mother. Warren didn't respond right away, and the brief silence gave me confirmation. He already suspected it. Continued. You've watched her guide every decision he makes. Yes, he admitted quietly. I've seen it. She wants me compliant tomorrow, I said. She wants a passive scene for her guests. A mother who apologizes for existing. That won't be you, Warren responded. No, I agreed. It won't. Another message from Clarissa appeared on my screen. If you don't confirm, we'll remove your seat. I let the phone dim on its own. Warren's voice returned firmer. I'll sit beside Jason. Good. And you? I'll sit where she placed me, I responded. It exposes her intention better. Warren understood immediately. She'll bury herself. She'll accelerate it, I corrected. He made a quiet sound of acknowledgement. I'll be there early. Don't greet her first, I advised. Let her react to your neutrality. I can do that. And when she tries to redirect the narrative, she'll fail, he interrupted. I'll be watching. That was enough. We're done for now, I said. Thank you, Diane. His tone shifted. Respect, not formality. For trusting me. I'm not trusting you, I corrected. I'm informing you. A brief pause. Then Warren replied with something I hadn't heard from him before. Fair enough. I ended the call and placed the phone beside the blueprint box. Another text appeared from Jason this time. Mom, confirm for tomorrow, please. I didn't respond. I folded the lighthouse drawing slowly, aligned the edges, and placed it back into the box. Tomorrow wasn't reconciliation. It was exposure. For the first time in years, Jason would hear truth without Clarissa speaking over it. And Warren would hear the son he thought he knew reveal himself without help. I called Warren again once the house went quiet. He answered on the first ring. Is there more? Yes. Yes, I replied. We need alignment before tomorrow. I'm listening. Clarissa sent me a seating chart. She placed me at the far end, isolated. Warren exhaled through his nose. She didn't mention that. She wouldn't. She wants control. He paced, footsteps steady across his floor. Where should you sit? Exactly where she put me, I responded. It shows intent. You're comfortable with that. It exposes her without effort. He paused. What do you need from me? One thing, agreement. On what? He asked. That tomorrow is not their stage, I answered. It's ours. The footsteps stopped. Explain. You sit at the head as planned. You watch every cue she gives Jason. You don't interrupt unless the moment is clear. What moment? The one where she crosses the line, I replied. And Jason, he'll follow her. Your reaction will be the only one he recognizes. Warren processed that quickly. So my role isn't defense. It's observation and correction. He acknowledged it. Understood. Continued. If you support truth, not performance, the room shifts. You know what you're asking. Yes. Yes. You hold the authority they respect. If you stand, they listen. And you. Yes. I speak when the facts land. Not before. Warren inhaled once. Fine, I'll follow your lead. That's the agreement. It is. A notification blinked on my screen. Another message from Clarissa. Asterisk, bring appropriate attire. Formal tone only. Asterisk, Warren's voice returned. Are they contacting you again? Yes. He made a displeased sound. She's pushing too hard. That's why tomorrow works. What else did she send? A package, instructions, seating assignments. Warren responded sharply. She should never have done that. She did it because she assumes no one questions her. Not anymore, he stated. I looked at the blueprint box. Bring no one with you tomorrow. Not staff, not assistants. Agreed. No introductions either. Let her initiate. I can do that. And when Jason mirrors her behavior, I'll see it, Warren interjected. Good. Because she'll expect your approval. She's mistaken, he answered. I opened the package again, pulled out the embossed card, and held it where the light hit it clearly. She wants a silent room, I noted. But that's not what she'll get, Warren replied. A brief pause stretched between us. Then he added, I should apologize to you. No, I replied. Apologize when the truth is visible, not before. He accepted that. Then tomorrow. Another buzz hit my phone. Clarissa again. You must confirm or your seat is removed. I'll handle that, I told Warren. Don't reply to her, he instructed. I wasn't going to. He cleared his throat, preparing to say something else, but stopped. This is long overdue. Yes, he tried again. And when the moment comes tomorrow, I'll know, I replied. You'll know. The room will know. Warren's tone dropped lower. I don't want to fight. There won't be a fight, I assured him. There will be truth. Another text arrived. this time from Jason. Mom, confirm now. She's upset. I didn't acknowledge it. Warren continued. Jason told me you misinterpreted everything last night. That was rehearsed. I assumed. He repeated her language. Warren shook his head lightly into the phone. I raised him to be better. You welcomed him in, I corrected, hoping he would be. He paused. And tomorrow we find out if he is. We are aligned. We are. Anything else you need? Yes, I stated. You must stay neutral until she exposes herself. I understand. Even if she attempts to sway you before the meal. She already tried, Warren noted. How? She told me you escalated things, that Jason had to protect our guests from discomfort. That was her angle, I confirmed. I suspected as much. Your confirmation tomorrow matters more than suspicion. He didn't object. You'll have it. We exchanged one final clarity check. When she starts controlling the table, I began. I'll watch, he finished. When she pushes Jason to lead the conversation, I'll note it. When she makes a comment aimed at me, I'll wait, he replied. Then stand at the right time. That was the exact response needed. Then he asked quietly, what happens after tomorrow? After tomorrow, I answered. The truth stands. Everything else adjusts. Warren accepted that without hesitation. Then tomorrow is the reset. Yes. He cleared his throat once more. Thank you for bringing me into this. I'm not bringing you in, I corrected. I'm bringing you up to speed. He gave a small sound of agreement. Fair enough. We're done for tonight. Tomorrow, he confirmed. I ended the call. The house was silent again, except for one last buzz from my phone. Final message from Clarissa. If you disrupt tomorrow, you won't have a seat anywhere. I read it once, then placed the phone face down beside the blueprint box. Tomorrow she would learn what happens when someone tries to control a room they don't actually understand. I arrived at Warren's house 10 minutes early. Cars already lined the long driveway. Staff moved quickly, adjusting plates and glasses under Clarissa's direction. She stood near the entrance, checking everything twice. Her eyes landed on me immediately. You're early, she commented, stepping closer. Please wait outside until everyone arrives. We're keeping the entrance area polished. I looked past her into the dining room. You invited me. I'm here. Her jaw tightened. Just don't walk around. We don't need confusion. Warren approached from the hallway. Diane. He greeted evenly. Thank you for coming. Clarissa's eyes flicked toward him, irritated at his neutral tone. Jason rushed over. Mom, stay near the wall for a minute. We're arranging the order of entry. Entry? Yes. Clarissa straightened. Yes, appearances matter. Guests need structure. Warren glanced at her. It's dinner, Clarissa, not a press event. She forced a thin smile. Of course, just keeping things smooth. Guests arrived in groups. Some greeted Warren warmly. Others looked around, waiting for cues. Clarissa kept adjusting her dress, her hair, her bracelets, small performance checks. When the main doors closed, Clarissa clapped lightly. Everyone take your seats. I moved toward the table, but Clarissa intercepted. Your seat is there. She pointed toward the far corner, away from the center. I walked without reacting. A guest leaned toward another. Why is she seated all the way down there? Clarissa heard it. Her shoulders stiffened, but she pretended not to notice. Warren took the head seat. Jason sat beside him, posture straight, watching Clarissa for direction. Dinner began quietly. Clarissa lifted her glass, the crystal catching the light. Before we eat, I want to acknowledge my father, Warren, for hosting us in this beautiful estate, and to my husband for finally stepping up to the legacy he deserves. A few guests clapped politely. Jason beamed, looking at Warren for validation. Warren didn't smile. He nodded once, his eyes shifting briefly to the empty space at the head of the table where a family photo used to sit. Clarissa cleared her throat and glanced toward my end of the table, the exile zone. And thank you, Diane, for joining. Despite everything. Multiple heads turned. The word everything hung in the air like a bad smell. Jason flinched. Warren's jaw shifted once. Kept my eyes steady. Clarissa continued, voice dripping with fake sweetness. There was some misunderstanding yesterday. Emotions were high, but we're choosing peace today. Warren wants a unified family, and I always deliver what this family needs. I lifted my glass halfway. Unity isn't built on threats, Clarissa. The entire table stilled. Clarissa blinked. Threats? The mailbox, I answered plainly. The messages, the instructions. Gasps spread around the table. Jason stiffened. Mom. I spoke evenly. 2 sets of footprints, 2 voices on the phone, 1 intent. Clarissa's expression hardened. We don't need drama in front of guests. Warren leaned forward slightly. Let her finish. Clarissa froze. Continued. You wanted control of tonight. You sent seating charts. You sent a card with decorum on the front. You told me not to speak. A guest turned to another. She sent instructions. Someone else whispered. Why would she do that? Clarissa straightened her back. It was for order, that's all. Warren shifted his glass. Show them the instructions, Diane. I pulled the embossed card from my coat pocket and placed it on the table. Guests leaned to see. One man frowned. That's not an invitation. That's a command. Clarissa's smile thinned to a straight line. I simply wanted a smooth evening. That's normal. Breaking my mailbox wasn't normal, I answered. Jason jerked forward. We didn't break anything. Your footprints were at the scene, I replied. A woman at the table whispered loudly enough. Footprints don't lie. Clarissa raised her chin. People walk on streets, Diane. Anyone could have. Your heel prints circled the mailbox, I interrupted. Twice. A guest sat back. Circled. Why? Another added. That seems intentional. Clarissa's face tightened. Stop twisting things. Warren finally moved slowly, deliberately. He placed both hands on the table. The room fell silent. He looked directly at Clarissa. Tell the truth. Her posture stiffened. I organized a dinner. That's all. And the mailbox, he pressed. She didn't answer. Warren didn't blink. Clarissa. Jason stepped in. Dad, it wasn't. Warren cut him off with a look. You stay out of this until she answers. Jason sank into his chair, eyes darting nervously. Clarissa glanced around the table. Everyone here knows things get tense during holidays. A guest shook his head. Not like this. Another added. This feels coordinated. Warren leaned back. It was. Clarissa's eyes flashed with anger. You're taking her side. I'm acknowledging facts, he replied. The tension thickened. Warren turned toward Jason. Did you block her at your doorway? Jason swallowed. It was a misunderstanding. Were you instructed? Warren pressed. Jason's eyes jumped to Clarissa. The entire table saw it. A guest whispered. He's looking for permission. Another murmured. He's scared to answer. Warren's voice sharpened. Jason. Jason lowered his head. She told me to. Every guest gasped. Clarissa's face drained of composure. You don't need to throw me under the bus. This isn't a bus, Warren cut in. This is accountability. Clarissa glared at him. You're humiliating me. No, Warren corrected. You humiliated yourself. Jason's shoulders slumped. Clarissa pointed toward me sharply. She provoked everything. She brings drama everywhere she goes. She makes us look unstable. I responded calmly. Structure exposes instability. It doesn't create it. Guests murmured in agreement. Clarissa snapped, slamming her hand on the table. You don't belong at this table. You're just jealous because your son outgrew your little life. Enough. Warren stood up. The sound of his chair scraping the floor was like a gunshot. The room went deathly silent. He looked directly at Clarissa, his own daughter, with eyes full of disappointment. Then he turned his burning gaze to Jason. "I didn't welcome you into this family to be a puppet, Jason." Warren's voice was low, shaking with suppressed anger. Jason paled. "Dad, I built this wealth." Warren pointed a finger at the chandelier at the walls. "To build a legacy of honor, not to give my daughter the power to bully a defenseless woman." He turned to Clarissa. "You speak of my legacy. My legacy is integrity. Something you just tried to destroy in my own house." Clarissa's face drained of color. "Dad, I was protecting our image." She, Warren pointed at me, "is the mother of your husband and the grandmother of the children you might have one day." He looked at me with deep respect. "She built a life on structure and hard work while you, Clarissa, are just spending what I earned to buy people's silence." He tossed his napkin onto his plate. "I'm done eating with liars, especially when one of them is my own child." Every pair of eyes turned to me, but I didn't need to speak. Warren had done it for me, and the reversal was complete. Guests began shifting in their seats as Warren remained standing. His presence carried more weight now than any speech Clarissa had planned. He turned to the table. "Dinner is over," a guest whispered. "Already?" Warren shook his head. "We're not staying here." He pointed toward the door. "Get your coats." Clarissa pushed back her chair. "Dad, you can't just end the evening. We worked all day to prepare." "You worked to control," Warren cut in. "Not to host." Jason stood up quickly. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere honest," Warren answered. Clarissa stepped in front of him. "You're not taking everyone with you like some parade. This is our home." A guest muttered. "Not for long. If this keeps up." Warren ignored her and turned to me. "Diane, lead the way. We'll follow." The table went silent. Clarissa's eyes widened. "Follow her. To where?" "She doesn't have a place for guests." Warren didn't look at her. "She has something better than a place. She has integrity." Clarissa's voice sharpened. "You're humiliating me." "You managed that yourself," Warren replied. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. "Dad, we can just stay and eat. Let's not escalate." "Your mother deserves better than this room," Warren stated. He stepped aside and motioned toward the hallway. Guests rose, grabbing coats and bags. Chairs scraped against the floor in a wave of movement. Clarissa blocked the doorway. "No one is leaving." Warren walked right past her. "Move." She hesitated. He didn't repeat it. Jason tugged lightly on her arm. "Just let them go. We can talk later." Clarissa jerked her arm away. "They're choosing her over your wife." A guest answered bluntly. "They're choosing decency." Another added. This event was uncomfortable from the start. Clarissa looked like she wanted to fire back, but Warren motioned toward the front door again. "Everyone out." People obeyed him, not her. Her jaw clenched. Warren followed the guests into the foyer. I walked behind them, steady, silent. When we reached the front step, Warren turned to me. "Where to?" "My home," I replied. He nodded once. "Lead." A convoy of cars lined up behind mine. Engines started. Headlights lit the driveway. Snow drifted sideways in the wind. Clarissa appeared in the doorway, shouting, "You're all making a mistake. She's manipulating you. She's doing this to get attention." No one responded. Warren stepped aside so I could reach my car. She pointed directly at him. "You're choosing her over family." Warren didn't break stride. "I'm choosing what's right." Guests murmured in agreement as they walked toward their cars. Clarissa stomped her foot once. "You can't just leave in the middle of a dinner I planned." A guest spoke without turning around. "It wasn't a dinner. It was a setup." Another added. "And now it's over." Clarissa's voice cracked. "Jason, stop them." Jason stood frozen. His eyes bounced between her and Warren, then toward the long line of idling cars. He didn't move. She shouted again. "Jason, control this." He didn't answer. Warren walked up beside me. "We'll follow your car." I nodded and entered mine. As I pulled out of the driveway, the entire convoy began to move. Bentleys, SUVs, sedans, all forming a slow procession behind me. In my rearview mirror, Clarissa stood in the entrance, arms rigid, face flushed with fury. Jason stood behind her, shoulders sagging, expression blank. When the last car turned onto the street, Clarissa shouted something that vanished into the night. We drove through the snow-lined roads. The trail of headlights stretched behind me like a procession of judgment. Not poetic, not symbolic, just factual. They chose to leave. Halfway down the main road, Warren called through the hands-free system. "We're right behind you," his voice confirmed. "Keep going." 5 more minutes, I responded. Guests honked lightly in recognition. Not celebration, confirmation. We reached the coastal road. The snow thickened. The ocean wind pushed gently against the side of my car. My house appeared at the end of the street. Lights warm but modest. Not extravagant, not curated. Warren pulled up behind me. Then everyone else parked along the road. As I stepped out, he joined me. "Lead them inside." Open the door. Guests stepped into my small living room in an orderly line. Coats were shaken off, gloves tucked away, voices quiet. One woman looked around. "This feels comfortable." Another nodded. "Real." A man added. "Better than that cold mansion." Warren turned to me. "Do you have room for sincerity?" "Yes." "Always." He offered a brief nod. Jason's car slowed at the end of the street but didn't park. The headlights lingered, aimed at the house. Guests noticed. Someone whispered, "He's thinking." Another said, "He's scared to come without her." The car remained still. Warren didn't look toward it. "Ignore it. Tonight is not for performance." We stepped inside. The table wasn't set. No silver centerpieces, no structured seating, just a home. I moved into the kitchen. "I'll put something together." Warren followed. "I'll help." Guests began opening cabinets, asking simple questions. "Plates, glasses. Where's the pot?" Pointed. They moved efficiently. Nobody needed instructions. Nobody attempted to dominate. Someone asked, "Should we call this a new dinner?" Another replied, "No, this is the real one." Chairs were pulled from the corners. A spare table from the hall was added. People squeezed in without complaint. Warren took a seat near the center, not at the head. He looked up at me. "This feels right." A guest added, "This feels like Christmas." I placed bread on the table. "Then we eat." Someone laughed lightly. "Before our hearts get cold." A few guests smiled at the line. Warren lifted his glass. "To sincerity." Others raised theirs. "To sincerity." The room warmed not emotionally but literally. Bodies, voices, movement, practical actions replacing orchestrated appearances. The headlights of Jason's car were still visible through the window. Someone pointed. "He's still out there." Another asked, "Will he come in?" Answered plainly, "When he's ready." No one pressured him. Warren looked toward the window but didn't call out. "He knows where the door is." And the dinner began. Simple food, simple talk, no performance, no manipulation. A quiet exodus had led here. Not dramatic, not symbolic, just factual. They left her house to enter mine. The kitchen filled quickly as guests moved around with easy coordination. Pots clicked onto burners, plates stacked neatly, chairs repositioned. No one waited for instruction. No one asked for permission. They acted like people who finally stepped out of a staged performance. Warren rolled up his sleeves beside me. "Tell me what to do." "Hand me the bowls," I replied. He passed them over without hesitation. A woman opened the fridge. "May we use these vegetables?" "Of course." Another guest called from the dining area. We need more chairs. Warren responded. Take the ones from the porch. People moved with calm purpose. Not the stiff perfection Clarissa had demanded earlier. A guest approached me. This house feels alive. It's just simple, I answered. That's what makes it good. Warren stepped closer. You always kept things straightforward. That's the only way they work, I replied. He nodded and continued arranging the table. No centerpiece, no place cards, just plates, forks, napkins, and space for conversation. Someone lit the small candles near the window. A man laughed gently. These cost $3, and they look better than those expensive crystal ones. Another guest agreed. Because no one is performing here. We brought the food out, warm dishes placed down without ceremony. Guests sat wherever they wanted. Warren took the chair beside mine, not at the head, not at the center beside me. A woman across the table observed. This feels like actual family. Another added. Not like earlier. A light murmur of agreement spread through the room. Warren lifted his glass. Everyone before we eat. A man interrupted. No speeches, just gratitude. Warren lowered the glass slightly. Then gratitude. He clinked his glass gently against mine. Guests raised theirs. Gratitude. The meal began. People dug in freely. No waiting for cues. No glancing at Clarissa for approval. No stiff posture. A man on my left leaned in. How long have you lived here? 10 years. It's peaceful. I prefer it that way. A woman across from us joined in. You hosted us better with 20 minutes than she did with an entire team. Another nodded. Because you didn't try to impress us. Warren lifted his fork. Efficiency beats perfection. A ripple of soft laughter passed around the table. We kept eating. Guests asked simple questions about recipes, the lighthouse visible through the window, the age of the house, the quiet street. A man stood to refill water. Anybody need some? Hands went up. He refilled every glass without fuss. The room moved like a unit. No tension, no pressure, just activity. After a moment, Warren leaned slightly toward me. This feels like Christmas. Then enjoy it, I replied. A woman across the table pointed at the window. Those cars outside, all lined up behind yours. It looked like a procession. A man chimed in. People follow what feels right. Warren nodded. They did. Another guest added quietly. They followed you. I didn't respond. The conversation shifted naturally. One person commented on the lighthouse's steady light. Another asked about the heating system in old coastal homes. Another complimented the food. Warren watched the room. You realize this is what gathering should look like. Basic coordination, I replied. Honesty, he corrected. The front door opened slightly. Heads turned. Jason stepped inside slowly, snow dusting his shoulders. He hesitated at the doorway, scanning the room. A guest whispered. Finally. Another murmured. He came alone. Jason looked around. Can I come in? I nodded once. The storm's still out there. He stepped forward cautiously, shutting the door quietly behind him. His eyes scanned the table. Everyone seated comfortably, talking openly. He swallowed. You moved the dinner here. Warren answered before anyone else. We moved truth here. Jason stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, unsure where to go. Do you have a seat? Warren gestured toward an empty chair near the end of the table. There. Jason moved toward it, but his steps were slow, like he expected someone to push him back. He sat, hands clasped together. A man beside him offered. Food still warm. Serve yourself. Jason nodded and reached toward a dish. The room continued its flow. Conversation returning, plates passed, glasses refilled. Jason poked at his food. Clarissa doesn't know I drove off. Warren didn't look at him. She shouted at the door. We heard. Jason lowered his gaze. She's angry. Warren replied. She's exposed. Few guests paused, listening. Jason looked toward me, torn down. Mom, do you think I meant to hurt you? I answered plainly. You followed instruction. He flinched, but he didn't argue. A woman across the table added gently. Following the wrong person leads to the wrong place. Jason nodded slowly. The conversation resumed around him, but quieter now. People giving him space. After several minutes, he exhaled through his nose. I watched the convoy leave. She told me to block the driveway so no one could get out. A guest muttered. Good thing you didn't. Jason shook his head. I didn't because I knew Dad would drive through me. Warren responded calmly. Correct. Jason looked toward him. I don't know where to start fixing this. Warren cut a piece of bread. Start by recognizing what you enabled. A woman beside him nodded. And who taught you to ignore your mother's dignity? Jason swallowed again. The truth struck without theatrics. He turned toward me. Mom, I shouldn't have blocked you at the door. You shouldn't have, I responded. He let the confirmation land. No excuses, no defensiveness. He continued. And I shouldn't have followed her directions. Then stop doing it, Warren said flatly. The room remained steady. No tension, just clarity. A guest commented softly. Honesty fixes things faster than decoration. Another added. She covered everything in glitter earlier. It didn't fix anything. Laughter broke the heaviness briefly. The meal continued. Jason listened more than he spoke. A few guests included him in small questions. Pass the bowl. More water. Simple ways to draw him into the flow. After a while, Jason asked, Can I help with anything? I gestured toward the counter. Stack the plates. He nodded and stood, collecting dishes one by one. Guests helped, forming a short line toward the kitchen sink. Warren leaned back. Look at this. A guest smiled. This is the first teamwork we've seen all day. When the plates were stacked, Jason approached me directly. Mom, thank you for opening the door. You knocked, I replied. I didn't expect you to answer. You came without her. He nodded once, accepting the meaning. The table refilled with side conversations, warm voices, clean atmosphere, nothing forced. Warren lifted his glass again, not high, not dramatic. To a night that corrected itself. Guests raised theirs. To correction. A woman added with a grin. And to food that didn't come with rules. Laughter circled the room again. The door stayed closed. The storm outside moved quietly. Cars remained lined along the street, their engines cooling. Inside, the dinner settled into something steady and human. Not perfect, not orchestrated, not staged, just real. Guests lingered around the table while the last plates were dried and stacked neatly on the counter. Conversation flowed in quiet, steady waves. No performance, no tension, just people winding down after a real meal. Warren stepped near the window. Storms picking up again. I glanced at the glass. Snow moved sideways in slow sheets. A few guests turned their heads. A woman asked, Should we head out before it gets worse? No rush, I answered. There's room here. She smiled lightly. This place feels safe. Before anyone could respond, someone near the door called out, There's a car outside. People turned. Headlights approached slowly, then stopped directly in front of the house. Jason looked down. That's her. A man whispered. Round 2. Warren's expression didn't shift. She won't come in with the same energy. Jason exhaled through his nose. She's not moving. He was right. The headlights shut off, but the car door didn't open immediately. The silhouette sat there, dark and still against the driving snow. Minutes passed. The guests grew quiet, watching the standoff. Finally the car door opened. Clarissa stepped out, but she didn't march toward the house. She stood by the hood of the car, arms wrapped tight around herself, head bowed against the wind. The snow piled quickly on her shoulders. She looked at the warm glow of the windows but didn't take a step closer. She looked frozen not just from cold but from defeat. Jason stood up. I need to go out there. He looked at me, waiting for objection. He nodded. Go. Jason walked to the front door and stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door shut behind him to keep the heat inside. Through the window we watched. Jason stood on the top step. Clarissa stood at the bottom. The wind whipped between them. She wasn't shouting. Her posture was broken. She said something. Her shoulders shaking violently. Jason didn't yell back. He listened. He said a few words, then pointed toward the house, toward me. Clarissa shook her head, covering her face with her hands. She looked ready to get back in the car and run. Jason stepped down into the snow, reached out, and gently pulled her hands away from her face. He said one last thing, firm but steady. Then he turned and opened the front door. A blast of cold air hit the room. Jason stood in the frame, but he didn't step aside yet. He looked at me. Mom, she knows she doesn't deserve to come in. I stood up and walked to the door. Clarissa was standing behind him, shivering uncontrollably. Her mascara was smeared, her lips pale. The arrogance was completely gone, stripped away by the storm and the silence of the empty road. She couldn't meet my eyes. She looked at the floorboards. Hi. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. She took a breath, fighting to stabilize her voice. I didn't think anyone would leave. I thought if I controlled everything I would be safe. She looked up, eyes red and raw. But I'm just alone. And I'm cold. It wasn't a rehearsed speech. It was the raw admission of someone who had played a game and lost everything. Why, Clarissa? I asked softly. Why the mailbox? Why the cruelty? She hugged herself tighter. Jealousy, she admitted, the word tearing out of her. I have the money. Have the estate. But I watched Jason look at that old blueprint in your kitchen. He never looks at me like that. He never looks at our contracts like that. I wanted to break that connection. She wiped a tear that froze on her cheek. I thought if I pushed you out, he would finally be fully mine. She looked at Jason, who stood beside her, not holding her, but standing with her. But I just pushed him out too. I watched her. This wasn't the woman who orchestrated a seating chart. This was a frightened woman realizing that money couldn't buy loyalty. Warren spoke up from the table. His voice stern but not shouting. Talk is cheap, Clarissa. Can you fix what you broke? Clarissa nodded frantically. The mailbox. I'll replace it tomorrow. The best one. No, I corrected gently. We don't need the best one. We need the old one fixed. Clarissa blinked, confused, then understood. We'll fix it. I'll hold the tools if I have to. Then the work begins tomorrow, I said. I stepped back, one slow movement, revealing the warmth of the room behind me. The storm is dangerous, Clarissa, I said. Come inside before you freeze. She hesitated, looking at the simple table, the mismatched chairs, the people she had insulted earlier. Are you sure? She asked, voice trembling. My house has a foundation, I answered. It can hold the weight of a mistake. Clarissa let out a sob, half relief, half shame. She stepped over the threshold, wiping her boots carefully, terrified of tracking mud into the home she had despised. Jason closed the door, shutting out the wind. The room was silent. Warren gestured to an empty chair between two guests. Sit. She moved to the seat, keeping her head low. The guests shifted slightly to give her room, not out of obligation, but out of recognition that the war was over. Jason joined her. We can fix this, he murmured. She nodded. The guests resumed eating leftovers and small portions. Soft conversations restarted. Nothing forced, nothing staged. After a few minutes, Jason looked toward me. Mom, thank you. You walked in on your own, I replied. He nodded. Warren added, this is how families reset. A guest raised her glass. To second chances. Another lifted his. To second chances. I lifted mine. Clarissa hesitated for a heartbeat, then lifted hers too. No performance, no strain, no theatrics, just presence. We clinked gently. The room quieted. Not tense, not heavy, just warm. The storm outside kept moving, but the door stayed open. People didn't leave right away. Some helped wash dishes. Others folded blankets. A few sat by the window, watching the snow settle on the cars. When the night finally thinned, guests gathered their coats. Warren placed a firm hand on my shoulder. Tonight worked. It did. Jason stepped close. Mom, can we visit tomorrow? Yes. Clarissa added carefully. If you're willing. He nodded. They both breathed out quietly. Relief, not performance. The last guest stepped outside. Warren lingered. You led with strength tonight. Truth leads, I answered. He gave a small nod, then stepped into the cold. I closed the door gently behind him. The snow kept falling, but inside the house stayed warm. The forgiveness was real, and the door remained open. And that is how one quiet Christmas turned into a night of truth, accountability, and a real beginning. Not every family argument ends with shouting. Sometimes it ends with a door opening, finally, for the right reasons.